Listen and practice.
Grocery shopping. My name is Fatima. I am originally from the Middle East, but I am living in England where I have made myself quite comfortable, especially since I can live here with my family. Grocery shopping is one of my daily needs. Usually, I do this in the morning when fewer customers visit the supermarkets. To save money, I always prepare a list. For instance, today I need rice, vegetables, milk, sardines, and pasta. If I find cheap offers, I buy more of it. Potatoes and pork are not on my menus very often, as it's something more for the British. In most supermarkets, you have to pack your bags yourself, and you can pay with your credit card.
Listen and practice. A clean house. Once a year, I need to clean the whole house thoroughly. This happens usually in springtime when there is less moisture in the house. We are a rather large family with 4 children, all of them teenagers, so the mess and dirt are piling up quickly. Our house is a rather typical single-family house with an attached garage and a small attic. The living room is openly connected with the kitchen. We also have an extra freezer outside the house where we store meat. Some of it comes from the hunting that my father usually does on weekends. Anyway, when we start, we first clean the rooms of the kids. We clean the floor and wipe the windows. We need to mop the floor more than once until it shines and looks like new. I clean the furniture, and usually I need about half a day to get the kitchen clean. My brother cleans the garage and helps to bring the trash out. We are a clean and functioning family with a clean house and healthy children. We are rightfully proud of ourselves. Listen and practice. Future plans. In Mexico. I am on vacation in Mexico and walking on the beach. I am staring at the sea. My thoughts wander into the future. What will my future be like? What I am supposed to do? I am dreaming of finishing my education with a doctoral degree in medicine. Then I really could become a doctor and work in a hospital. I could even have my own business. I also imagine becoming a plastic surgeon. I know they make a lot of money, and most have an excellent reputation. Some of them even have become celebrities. My thoughts wander further. I could also finish my education with honors and then finish my life. But then again, where am I right now? Perhaps I should just stay here in Mexico and spend my life in a hammock. Listen and practice. Our bicycle tour. We are 2 young men on vacation in Holland. In this country, everyone has a bicycle and it's part of their culture. That's why we rented a bicycle for a whole week to explore not only big cities such as Amsterdam, but also the countryside. From the early morning to late at night, we are riding our bicycles, and each day we try to cover longer distances. Normally we ride about 50 kilometers per day. There are no mountains to speak of, so we can ride as fast as we can. Our bicycles are fully equipped with head and tail lights, gear shifts, a bell, and even an air pump. Besides those, we also wear a helmet and a colored shirt. We'd like to think of ourselves as semi-professional bicycle riders. For me, it is more of a sport, but my friend already dreams of participating in the Tour de France. Listen and practice. A visit to the doctor. Elsa seriously thought she was pregnant. Her stomach already looked like she had swallowed a few basketballs when she decided it was time to call her doctor to hear the results from the last exams. But just like last time, the doctor confirmed that she wasn't pregnant at all. Still, over the next few weeks, Elsa gained more pounds. In addition, the shape of her stomach had become strange. It looked like a huge potato. The scale showed over 300 pounds, and Elsa just couldn't find an explanation. Eventually, Elsa checked herself into a hospital for cosmetic surgery, basically to suck out the fat from her body. When Elsa left the hospital, she weighed only 100 pounds. She asked the surgeon about her condition. The doctor pointed his finger at the lawn in front of the hospital. "Do you see that donkey on the lawn? We pulled that out of your body. Now you are healed. Listen and practice. The Spanish restaurant Frank has recently opened a restaurant in the Bay Area, and his specialty is Spanish cuisine. Actually, the restaurant is part of his house that has also a large garden and is very spacious. One night, just when he wanted to close, a young couple came in. His wife, who works in the kitchen, wondered why her husband is still letting guests in. "Frank, the kitchen is already closed. Besides, we don't have enough in the refrigerator to cook 2 more meals." Frank shakes his head. "We do. I still have a rabbit in there." "But most people don't like rabbit," his wife complains. "I know a very old recipe from an old cookbook. Just let me try." "How long does it take until you have cooked this recipe?" "It will take about an hour. I still have to pull off the fur since I shot the rabbit in the garden myself earlier." Listen and practice. The mysterious lamp. What Bruno Schmidt wanted to buy originally in this German flea market was a drum. He figured that to find a decent drum, he had to go to a large flea market is in a major city and usually takes place on weekends. So, it was on Sunday that he saw a large red drum on a table that also offered a lot of broken stuff and old, seemingly useless items. For some reason, the vendor didn't want to sell him the drum. "Can you not read?" the old vendor asked him. He pointed his finger at a handmade sign that said, "Take everything for 100 euros. It seemed the man didn't want to sell only the drum. Then Bruno saw an old vintage lamp that looked really interesting. A typical lamp with a shade that one would put into the bedroom. He could use a lamp like that. Bruno asked the man if he could buy the drum and the lamp together. The old man nodded. Bruno took a closer look at the lamp. There were old decoration lines on the lampshade which also had old pergament in bright color. Then he saw what looked like a long number in the corner of the shade. Was that a tattoo? "What is the lampshade made off?" Bruno asked the man. "I don't think it's animal skin," answered the man. "I bought it myself at the flea market in Buchenwald." Listen and practice. Not always. Fish and chips. Molly runs a small restaurant in a small town in southern England. She sells fish and chips, but her most popular dish is hamburgers. She's been in the restaurant business for a long time, and since she is always eating her food in the restaurant, she doesn't feel very healthy. She thinks all the grease and fried meals have taken their toll on her health. She tells this to some of her regular customers, and most agree she should offer healthier food. Other customers, however, have pointed out that she should keep her restaurant cleaner since there are a lot of cockroaches. Sometimes they can be seen on the tables. Eventually, Molly buys several cookbooks about healthy food, especially exotic Asian food, as it fascinates her. One day, Molly has a brilliant idea. After a few days of trial and error, Molly sells Asian diet hamburgers. The customers like them, and some even think of them as fantastic. One regular customer asks Molly, "What is the secret of this new and tasty hamburger?" She tells him the meat is made of insects, which is very common in Asia, and that she catches the insects all in her own restaurant. Listen and practice. An unusual marriage. Mr. Meyer is a public accountant but works in a large insurance company. He has an excellent reputation for being reliable and having a high work ethic. In a short time, he has risen to upper management. However, over the last few weeks, Mr. Meyer has often been sick. It also seems he is not very focused, with his colleagues saying that he is distracted by something. Mr. Meyer actually has a secret. For some time, he has been engaged to his new girlfriend, but the real secret is that he met her on the street. The first time he met her, he paid for her time. One day, he tells his colleagues that he plans to marry his fiancée. One of his colleagues has always been suspicious and envious of him. After some research on the internet, he finds out that Mr. Meyer's fiancée has a questionable past. He reports his findings to the directors. They give Mr. Meyer a choice. He can keep his job, but he must not marry that woman, or he must leave the company. Mr. Meyer is desperate. Should he marry the woman or keep his job? Eventually, Mr. Meyer tells his bosses, "I will marry, but I am not going to marry the woman. I will instead marry my office if you give me a lifetime contract." Listen and practice. New shoes. Today, Gilbert is going to buy new shoes. In a shoe store, he asks the salesperson if they also have working shoes. The man replies that they actually have working shoes on sale for a special price. Gilbert sees a particularly nice pair of shoes on the shelf. He asks if they'd have these shoes in his size. The salesperson replies, "Sorry, they come as they are, with no guarantees for shoes on sale." Gilbert checks the price and buys the shoe ad hoc. The next day, Gilbert is wearing his new shoes. However, in the evening, he comes back with one foot limping as his heel is wounded. His wife shakes her head. "Why did you have to buy shoes that are much too small for you?" Gilbert replies, "Only one of them is too small. That's why they were such a bargain." Listen and practice. Ticket control. I remember when I was a kid, I spent some time in Germany. I even went to school there. In this country, trains are an essential part of daily transportation. We were a group of 4 children, and it was winter with a lot of snow. Irma was one of the smaller children. At that time, she was only 11 years old. We made a trip by train from Munich to a smaller city. It was a nice and modern train, and we had even our own compartment. We heard somebody knocking on the door. It was the ticket inspector, a man in uniform, just to see if we had bought tickets. One by one, he inspected the tickets, but Irma was nervously searching her bag. She couldn't find her ticket. The inspector asked for her identification, then told her to follow him. At that time, the train had stopped at a little town. We waited for Irma to return, but nothing happened. Suddenly, the train moved, and through the window, we could see Irma standing by herself, frightened at the train station. But Irma looked different. Then we noticed that Irma was just standing there without her jacket. She had left it at her seat, and apparently the inspector had kicked her off the train, letting her practically freeze to death at the station. Listen and practice. Unemployed. Laura finds herself unemployed again. For the last 3 years, she's been working as an accountant, but the company went bankrupt. The company she was with before has outsourced all the accounting to a company in India. Over the last decade or so, Laura has been employed on and off, sometimes with many jobless months in between. Nevertheless, Laura thinks of herself as a reliable, punctual, and trustworthy person, and with a little luck, she thinks, she soon will be employed again. Every day she searches the classified employment websites and also the local newspapers for job openings. She sends out her resume to every company she can think of in the hope for work, since unemployment diminishes her savings. One of her most important principles is to never give up. Her dream job is still being an accountant, but she knows times have changed. She is flexible, as finding work as a secretary would serve her as well. Listen and practice. Divorced. Last year, I divorced my husband. My former husband is an alcoholic and cannot support his family. Fortunately, the children are already working, but still they need financial support once in a while. I'm meeting other divorced mothers at weekly meetups. Often, we do excursions or share leisure activities. Some of my divorced friends will marry again, as it happens quite a lot. I noticed if people stay alone too long, they become often alcoholics themselves. I have said goodbye not only to my husband, but also to alcohol. I am on the best way to master my life anew. Listen and practice. Buses and trains. Marco and Jane are siblings. Every weekend in the morning, They start a trip to visit their grandmother. Their grandmother lives in a distant city. Since the siblings don't have a car, they need to take public transportation, precisely the train and the bus. First, they have to take a communal train to the next major city. At the main train station, they have to take the metro train to get to the other side of the city. After that, when they have finally arrived at the last station outside the city, they have to take a bus to get to their final destination. A village in the countryside. The whole journey takes about half a day, and usually they arrive just before lunch. After resting an hour or so, they leave and take the trip back to the city, taking the trains again just to arrive home at dinner time. They both save eagerly to buy a car, as a trip to their grandmother by car would just take about an hour. Listen and practice. A famous book. For about a month, I've been reading a fascinating book written by a famous author. The book is a novel and is about an old man who goes out fishing in the ocean. He has to fight a large and mighty fish, and in the end, the old man wins this struggle. However, the book shows a deeper meaning. The author is Ernest Hemingway, who wrote the novel The Old Man and the Sea in 1951 in Cuba. This work is considered as one of the best in world literature. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for World Literature. I am fascinated by this book, and I'd love to read more from this author. I also think that good books are much better than movies. Listen and practice. A simple salad Lisa works in a fine dining restaurant in London. She just started 2 weeks ago. Most often she works in the kitchen, but when the restaurant is busy, she must also help out as a waitress. The chef is well known and a celebrity, and today he will work in the kitchen himself. Dinner service has started, and the first orders are coming in. The chef shouts at Lisa, "I need a simple salad, Lisa." Lisa immediately starts to work on it. First, she cuts lettuce and then mixes the salad with sliced cucumbers. She also chops a tomato in 4 pieces, cuts an onion and a few olives into the salad. In the end, she mixes all the ingredients with olive oil, vinegar, salt, and pepper. "The salad is ready," Lisa shouts out. The chef looks bewildered at the plate. "This is what you call a simple salad?" Listen and practice. Easter in England and Europe in general is a holiday that involves the whole family. On Good Friday in the countryside, they often make bonfires where family and friends gather for some barbecue, and sometimes music is played. The Easter festival is a tradition in many countries. For children, Easter morning is the most important day of the festival. In the morning hours, children love to paint hard-boiled eggs and hide them in the bushes. They make a game out of it to find the hidden eggs, but not all of the eggs are always found. Even weeks after Easter, there are times when the land stinks of rotten eggs that haven't been found. Listen and practice. Vegan food. Maria knows that she needs to stay on a diet. She has read many diet cookbooks and does stretching exercises in the morning hours. She also has studied and experimented with many diet recipes, but a lot of recipes contain meat, which Maria tries to avoid. However, cooking takes a lot of time, and whenever possible, she tries to find a healthy restaurant, as she doesn't want to cook every day. A good friend of hers told her about a good vegetarian restaurant. Maria tries the restaurant and finds the dishes delicious. Almost all of the dishes are vegetarian, and some are even only vegan. After a short time, Maria has become a regular customer. Her favorite meal is a vegetable soup, which is supposed to have no meat at all. One day, she asks the cook why the soup is always so delicious, as she wants to know the secret. The cook answers that he is always using chicken stock. Listen and practice. Evacuation. We are retirees and live in a nursing home. Last fall we had a big storm. The storm was only the beginning. After it poured for days, the whole town became flooded. In the end, we had a power outage. The heating, electricity, and even the telephone was dead. At first, we took it lightly, but at night, it got really cold with the temperature dropping below zero. It took 3 days until the buses arrived. They were supposed to evacuate us. To our surprise, the buses did not pick us up. Instead, they stopped next door where there's a luxury resort. The rich people were removed first, and we were told they were able to charter the buses for a lot of money. We could not compete with the rates. When they left, the guests winked at us through the windows. We stayed in the nursing home, and fortunately, after a few more days, the neighbors and private individuals evacuated us one by one. Listen and practice. Working men. I used to work on a construction site, and I would call myself a construction worker. In those days, I had to carry a lot of heavy material, often bricks and cement. At times, I also had to clean asphalt manually with a broom. One day, a little girl approached me and asked me why I sweated so much. I told her, "It's because I have to work so hard." But she continued by asking me, "Why don't I do anything else?" I replied, "Because I am only qualified for heavy labor." Suddenly, my boss came and yelled at me, "What are you doing? I am paying you to work, not to stand around." I replied, "The girl was just asking me an innocent question." "What did she ask you?" "Why I was sweating so much." "Enough," he said. "We are not a daycare center. Move it." The next day, I didn't return to work. I tried to find something else. Eventually, I found a good-paying job cleaning sewers. The new job had one advantage. At least I didn't have to sweat that much. Listen and practice. Under the lamppost. Martin is studying in Paris and found a night shift job in a restaurant. Although he is studying and working hard, he doesn't feel quite at home yet. One reason is that he doesn't have any social contacts. He is more of a dreamer and still has to figure out how to spend his free time. Every evening when he comes home from work, he has to walk through a park. It is an empty, large park, except for a few runners. There are not too many people. It's a beautiful park with typical French lanterns and benches. One evening, Martin notices a woman standing by herself under a lamppost. She seems to be waiting for someone. Martin also thinks the woman is quite attractive. The next evening, the same woman waits again under the lamppost. At night, when Martin goes to bed, he still thinks of the woman. A very attractive woman with light makeup and high heels. The situation occurs again and again over the next few weeks. However, Martin is too shy to speak to her, although sometimes he wishes he had more courage to do so. On a Friday evening, Martin approaches the woman. Today, he is determined to talk to her. The woman receives him with a broad smile. She says, "Are you coming with me?" Listen and practice. My best friend. I have been friends with Rachel since high school. Now, 5 years later, we are still in regular contact even though we live in different cities. When it comes to important things in life, we are always supporting each other. We both still have plans to continue at a specific university. This will be a perfect way to support each other again. My strong sides have always been mathematics and physics, while my friend prefers languages and the arts. Somehow, I always know what she doesn't, and the other way around. At times, we even support each other when we are anxious or upset. I had to calm her down a couple of times, especially when she had trouble with her boyfriend. The bottom line is that we have an indestructible friendship which I hope will survive anything.